Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. I wanted to hop on real quick and let you know that I am now accepting sponsors. I was hesitant to do this at first because I wanted the sponsors and the products to really associate with the brand and the podcast, and I wanted it to align with what I'm doing. But I've decided to open up for sponsorship, and there's a couple of different options. You can do a single sponsorship or you can do a longer term. So let me know if that is anything that anybody might want to do. Hit me up on my website, livelifewithlauren.com, or you can find me on social media. Thanks.
Welcome to the Go With Your Gut podcast, a podcast to help you manage your mindset. Because if you don't manage your mind, it'll control you. With speaker, writer, and creator, Lauren Dreyer.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. And today we are talking about external validation because it seems to be a rather hot topic in the world today, whether it be at home, whether it be in office, whether it be family, friends, other organizations, just about anywhere you go, honestly, right? So praise, a lot of people want it, but some people don't give it. I am no exception to somebody wanting it. That praise is one of my love languages, and um, for me, probably part of being a people pleaser is there are people that I really want praise and external validation from, but I I've kind of been thinking recently is if the people that we want this validation from, or um, whatever we want from them, is that part of their strong suits? And I ask that because, yes, um, praise and validation is a love language. And I find that it ties into relationships, it ties into communication, and it just ties into a lot of different aspects of happiness in the world today because we want all of these people to tell us how good we did, how wonderful we are, um, how proud of us that they are, all of these different things. But depending on a lot of factors, some being maybe how they grew up, what their own love language is, those are just a couple. They may not do that. They may not value that. So maybe, be it a boss, friend, family member, or anybody else, you may have somebody in your life that is absolutely fantastic at um, giving you praise, telling you how appreciated you are, telling you how good of a job you did, or maybe just noting your improvement, noting your progress and saying like, hey, I've noticed you've gotten a lot better, or I've noticed that you've been working really hard, and acknowledging that. And sometimes that's really nice to hear, and it kind of helps us keep our head down, or keep working harder, or whatever the case may be, and it kind of gives us that extra drive of, hey, I'm being noticed. Hey, somebody else notices that I'm doing good, so yes, I'm doing good. But if your boss, family, friends, whoever, external people, if they're not good at that, then is that fair of us to want them to do that? Because most of the time, we're not going to go up to somebody and say, hey, I want you to tell me I'm doing good. Hey, I wish you would tell me that you appreciate me. I wish that you do all these things. We're not going to go do that because maybe we don't want to, I don't know, look weak, or we just don't want to admit that we need that, or we just don't do that, honestly. So does that affect your work? Does it make you feel burnt out or unappreciated when your boss doesn't say that to you? that, you've been putting in the extra hours, you've been working really hard, whatever you've been doing, and nobody ever says anything to you. Or, you get on a call and maybe some people get called out and you're like, oh, it'd be really nice if that was me. Or does it affect your relationships wherever they are, or does it affect you at home? Because it's not just a work thing. Maybe you want to feel appreciated at home. Maybe you want to feel appreciated in certain relationships that you feel like it's all you doing the giving. And you're like, okay, well, it's a two-way street, and I don't feel like they appreciate me, that they want me around. And maybe it makes you feel insecure, or like you don't need that person in your life anymore if they're not going to make the same effort as you do. And first of all, I would say you have no idea half the time what's going on in somebody's life, because do you know some things? Yeah, maybe. Do you know all of it? Do you know what they're dealing with inside? Or maybe it's a personal thing that they don't want to talk about. No, we don't ever know the whole story. So if you're dealing with somebody who just does not naturally give that external validation or praise, is that their fault? And I would say no, because some people, whether it be how they grew up, or just, I don't know, how they're wired, they just may not do that. They don't find the value in that. And that is not their fault. As I've said earlier, praise and validation are a love language, but as we've learned, or if you haven't read it, I suggest reading it, The 5 Love Languages. It is part of communication, and it's not just maybe in marriage. It is about relationships wherever you are, because it doesn't matter if you're at work. It doesn't matter if you're at home. It doesn't matter if it's maybe your kids' teachers, if you have school age kids, or maybe it's your kids. Whoever that is, depending on what their specific love language is, their communication style, that could highly affect how they feel, how they react. And it may be something that simple that could make all the difference in the world. But if they are not somebody who appreciates, needs, wants external validation, or if it's not somebody who gives it, but you are, then at some point we have to learn to let people off the hook for not being that way. Because if you think about it, we have a lot of different people in our lives who communicate in a lot of different ways, right? So if somebody else loves gifts, or loves acts of service, or time spent, they want nothing else but for you to come and spend time. Then if that's their love language, and if you can just come and do one of those things, maybe give them a small token appreciation, or go have lunch with them or something, give them your time, that is what makes them feel like they matter to you, or makes them feel good, whatever the case may be. But if that's not how you communicate, if you don't care about those things and they do, then when they give you something, or if they give you their time, maybe that's the way that they say, I appreciate you, I value you. They don't just flat out say, hey, thanks, you're doing great. Hey, I appreciate that you did this, or hey, you're doing great. However they voice that. And we have to be very conscientious of that, because we tend to give love, we tend to communicate with those love languages, and we tend to give it how we would like to receive it. So, if mine's external validation, I'm going to tell somebody that, I really appreciate their hard work, or I see that they're doing great, or, I know that that was really hard for you. You did fantastic. You're doing awesome. Something to that nature. But that's how I might communicate. But that person may be a lot better if I'd say, hey, here's a pop, here's a fountain drink, here's a candy bar, whatever it is. And that may go further with them and showing my appreciation than, me expressing appreciation or giving them that validation. So we have to be very conscious, because if we're expecting praise and that's what we want, but who we're expecting praise from, that's not their love language, that's not how they communicate, then it's really not fair of us to be getting angry with them. However that makes us feel, whatever. Sometimes we get angry, we feel contempt, we feel like they don't appreciate us and they don't acknowledge it when they do things for us. So if we communicate in two different ways, one of them is not, one person wants that external validation and the other doesn't, then we have to recognize what the other person is saying to us and how they say it, because it may be in a different form. Or maybe it's because we didn't get that at some point in our lives, and that's how we really want. Maybe somebody didn't grow up getting that, so they didn't learn that that was a form of love, regardless of what form it is. But the people in your lives, I want you to whenever you're communicating with somebody and you find yourself wanting them to tell you how good you're doing, or tell you that you're appreciated, however you want them to tell you, think about, I always say, go with your gut. This is kind of a different scenario of going with your gut, but think about if you're expecting something from them, maybe validation, that they just don't naturally give. And then think about maybe ways that they're giving you that validation or appreciation in a different way, in the way that they need it. Because that may totally shift your perspective and say, oh, they have been telling me this, it's just not in the form that I was looking for. You use that gut instinct and say, do I need to be letting somebody off the hook for a way that they're not very good at communicating because we have different communication styles? Or maybe you need to forgive them for not having that communication style, or not giving you that praise or appreciation or whatever it is, not giving you that external validation the way that you want it. I hope this was some good insight. I hope it helped you to shift maybe some perspectives in some relationships that you may have, because everybody is so vastly different, and that's a great thing. But we also have to learn how to coexist and mesh with all different personalities. And love languages and communication are a big factor. And sometimes it has nothing to do with words. So we have to be conscientious of that, right? So as I always leave you, listen to that gut. Go with it. What is it telling you? And then always keep going.